There is a category of spending that almost never appears in personal finance conversations. It does not show up in budget categories. It does not feel like a problem when it is happening. It does not carry the guilt that overspending on obvious luxuries tends to produce. It is spending driven not by personal desire, but by the social environment a person happens to occupy. The restaurant that is above budget, because that is where the group chose to meet. The vacation that is beyond comfortable affordability, because everyone is going and not going means something. The wedding gift that is larger than planned because of awareness of what others in the group contributed. The round of drinks that nobody ordered individually but everyone paid for collectively. None of these feel like financial decisions in the moment. They feel like social participation. They feel like being a person who shows up for the people they care about. They are financial decisions. They compound. And across a decade of social participation in a peer group whose spending level outpaces the income or savings rate of any individual within it, the total cost is almost always larger than anyone inside that group has ever calculated. This video calculates it, names it, and provides the one structural change that protects the financial plan without requiring the social life to be dismantled. This is Money Map. Behavioral economists have studied the relationship between peer group spending and individual financial behavior for decades. The findings are remarkably consistent across income levels, education levels, and geographic contexts. The phenomenon is called social consumption. It describes spending behavior that is driven primarily by the desire to maintain perceived parity with a social group, rather than by personal preference, genuine desire, or independent financial assessment. Social consumption is distinct from peer pressure in the conventional sense. Nobody in the group is typically applying direct pressure. There is no explicit demand to match spending. The pressure is implicit, ambient, and almost entirely self-generated. The mechanism works as follows. A person belongs to a social group. Friends, colleagues, family members in similar life stages. That group has a collective spending standard. Restaurant choices, holiday destinations, gift scales, event attendance, home standards, vehicle choices. All of these establish a baseline of what participation in the group looks like financially. When any individual within the group spends below that baseline, the deviation is socially visible. Sometimes it is commented on. More often it is simply noticed and registered internally. The awareness of that visibility creates a consistent pull toward the group standard, regardless of whether the individual's financial situation supports it. The insidious quality of social consumption is that it scales with the peer group. As the peer group's income rises, so does its spending standard. And the individual who is keeping pace with a peer group that earns more, spends more freely, or has different financial obligations than they do, is perpetually running at a standard set by someone else's financial reality. This produces a specific pattern. Income grows. The peer group's spending standard grows at the same pace or faster. The gap between what is comfortably affordable and what is socially expected never closes. The individual perpetually feels as though they are almost at the level where they can start saving seriously. They never arrive. The figure of $40,000 was not invented for emotional impact. It was calculated from a realistic but conservative social spending pattern across a decade. Here is that calculation in full. Peer group dinners. The average American in a professional peer group attends approximately 24 social dinners per year. The gap between a dinner chosen freely based on personal preference and a dinner chosen to match the group's standard averages $35 per person in major U.S. metropolitan areas. Across 10 years, that gap is $8,400. Group travel. 2 peer group trips per year averaging $2,500 each. If the individual's comfortable travel budget would support $200 per trip, the gap per trip is set $300 across 10 years and 2 trips per year. 26,000. Weddings. The average cost of attending a wedding in the U.S., including travel, accommodation, attire, and gift, is approximately $600. The average person in their 30s attends between 8 and 12 weddings over the decade. At 10 weddings, the total cost is $6,000. A meaningful portion of this is non-negotiable. But the gift scale and accommodation choices are frequently elevated by social comparison rather than personal choice. Collective social purchases. Group house rentals, shared experiences, rounds of drinks, group gifts for colleagues, team lunches, social club memberships. These small recurring group-driven expenditures average $80 to $150 per month for someone in a professionally active peer group. At $100 per month, years, $12,000. Total social consumption spending above what personal preference and comfortable affordability would have produced, approximately $52,400. Now apply the opportunity cost. $52,400 invested at market average returns of 10% annually across 10 years produces approximately $90,000. The social consumption pattern across one decade costs not $52,400, but $90,000 in foregone future wealth. The $40,000 figure cited in the short was conservative. The full opportunity cost for a socially active professional in their 30s and 40s is significantly higher. Understanding social consumption intellectually is considerably easier than changing the behavior in practice. The reason is rooted in something more fundamental than financial discipline. Social belonging is not a luxury need, it is a primary human need, documented as such across every major framework in psychology. The feeling of being included, of being a full participant in the relationships that matter, of being seen as a peer rather than as someone who cannot keep up. These are not frivolous emotional concerns. They are central to psychological well-being and to the quality of social relationships over time. When financial limitation threatens social belonging, the brain does not treat it as a budgeting problem. It treats it as a social threat. And the response to a social threat is not calm, rational calculation. This is why telling someone to simply opt out of peer group spending is ineffective advice. It asks the person to repeatedly expose themselves to a social threat in order to protect a financial plan. Most people will choose the social belonging. The financial plan will lose every time the choice is framed that way. The effective solution does not frame it that way. Additionally, the social fabric of a peer group has genuine value that is not reflected in any financial calculation. The friendships, the shared experiences, the sense of belonging that comes from showing up consistently, these are worth something real. A financial plan that destroys the social life in order to maximize the investment account is not a good plan. It is a plan that maximizes one form of wealth while eliminating another. The goal is to preserve the social fabric while capping the financial cost of participation at a level the plan can sustain. Those two outcomes are compatible. They require only a specific structural mechanism to make them work simultaneously. The mechanism is called the social budget. It is a fixed monthly allocation set in advance, dedicated specifically to social spending. The social budget is not part of the general entertainment or dining category. It is its own line item with its own allocation and its own ceiling. When it is spent, it is spent. The month's social spending is complete. No exceptions and no supplementing from other budget categories. Setting the social budget requires one honest calculation. Take the average of the last 3 months of social spending. Include every expense that was driven by social participation rather than personal preference. Add them up and divide by 3. That number is the current social spending rate. It is almost certainly higher than the person has ever explicitly acknowledged, because social spending is typically distributed across categories in a way that makes the aggregate invisible. The social budget is set at a level below the current rate, enough below it to make a meaningful difference to the investment plan, but not so far below it that social participation becomes genuinely compromised. For most people, reducing the current social spending rate by 30 to 40% produces significant financial impact without requiring the peer group experience to change materially. When a group event is planned that sits above the social budget for that month, 3 options are available. Attend a lower-cost version of the same experience, suggest a lower-cost alternative to the group, or skip this event and preserve the social budget for the next one. The critical behavior is communicating none of these decisions as financial constraint unless the relationship warrants that level of disclosure. A simple response of "I cannot make that one," or "I am in for the dinner, but not the trip this time," requires no financial disclosure and produces no social damage in relationships that are genuinely sound. The friendships that cannot survive one declined invitation were not providing the belonging they appeared to provide. The ones that endure are the ones worth protecting, and they do not require unlimited spending to protect. There is a harder version of this conversation that most financial content avoids. Sometimes the social consumption pattern is not a manageable amount above budget. Sometimes the peer group spending standard is so far above a sustainable level that no social budget can bridge the gap. This occurs most commonly in 3 situations. The first is when a peer group's income has grown significantly faster than the individual's, What was once a group of equals in spending capacity has become a group where some members can afford the lifestyle and others cannot, but the social standard has calibrated to the higher earners. The second is when the peer group spending is debt-funded rather than income-funded. Other group members appear to be sustaining a lifestyle that in reality is being charged to credit. The peer group standard is an illusion, but it functions as social reality regardless. The third is when the social fabric of the group genuinely requires spending levels that are incompatible with the individual's financial plan at any reasonable social budget ceiling. In any of these situations, the honest financial assessment is the same. The question is not whether the individual can afford the peer group. The question is what the true cost of maintaining membership in that peer group is, including opportunity cost and compounding, and whether that cost is the best use of the capital it consumes. The answer does not have to be a dramatic break from existing friendships. It can be a gradual rebalancing toward relationships whose social fabric does not depend on spending, and less in the events that extract capital at a rate the plan cannot sustain. The social life worth protecting is the one built on genuine connection. Genuine connection does not have an admission price. Social consumption is not greed. It is not recklessness. It is the entirely human and understandable result of living in a social world where belonging has a visible financial component and where the cost of that belonging is almost never explicitly. Calculating it changes the decision-making, not because the social life is not worth spending on, because most people, when they see the full 10-year number, including opportunity cost, discover that they were spending far more on the appearance of participation than on the substance of the relationships they valued. The social budget does not end the social life. It funds it deliberately, and it protects the investment account that funds the future. If this video provided value, subscribe to Money Mapped for personal finance videos every week built for people in their 30s and 40s who want the honest numbers behind the patterns that nobody names. The next video is linked on screen now.